know that April is Autism Awareness Month? And this is why I reached out to someone who is an expert as it pertains to autism and just the special education community. Philly's own Jamilah Bashir, the IEP coach, y'all, okay? And she's an author as well. She is going to be dropping some jewels for you all, especially those of you who are parents of our babies who have special needs and in particular autism. This is an episode that you do not want to miss. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Aasiyah, and with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, the very foundation, as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together, y'all. Yes, indeed, y'all. This episode right here, I am just super excited because number one, I reached out to a phenomenal person who is in the field of special education. All right. And the reason why I reached out to her is because right now we are in the month of what is called the Autism Awareness Month. And this hits home for me personally because my son Musa, who is 19, he just actually got diagnosed officially going on 2 years ago. However, we knew there was something there prior to that. So with that being said, I am just so ready to introduce to you all this phenomenal, thorough expert in the field of special education, okay? And I got to read the bio, okay, y'all? I'm just saying, because the sister, she just been doing the damn thing, okay? So, Sister Jamilah F. Bashir, she has a BA in special education, MS in education, and MS in educational leadership, leverages over 20 years of experience as a former special education teacher and supervisor to empower educators and parents. As an education consultant and IEP coach, she guides teachers in balancing their professional responsibilities with personal well-being and assists parents through the IEP process, a respected voice in special education. Jamilah has shared her insights at the 2024 and 2025 Autism in Black Conference, the 2024 Black Males in Education Convening Conference, and the 12th and 14th Annual Progressive Education Summit, and on podcasts like Scholastically Speaking and the Stress Free IEP podcast. Her contributions have earned her accolades such as the Advocate for Me, LLC, and Jordan A. Smith Foundation Award. Beyond her professional achievements, her insights have been featured on platforms like The Opportunity Gap and the Why Don't We Talk About This podcast. She is the author of Because of H.E.R, H-E-R, and the creator of the Master the IEP course and Educators Rise group coaching program. Beyond her work, Jamilah connects with over 7,000 people weekly through her live series, The Coaching Corner with the IEP Coach, and enjoys traveling, the arts, and community service. Yes, y'all see, I appreciate Jamilah Bashir. Thank you so much. I appreciate you because for real, as y'all saw, there was no way I was going to memorize that. Okay, like that wasn't about to happen. But I'm so grateful that you shared all of your accomplishments in regards to the special education community, that field, and this is why we welcome you to the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invite. Really appreciate the invite.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Of course, with all of my guests, I always want them to start with the obvious, which is who you are, your background, where you are from, where you grew up, and just share some different things about your background with our
Sure.
audience, please.
My name is Jamilah F. Bashir, aka the IEP Coach, and I am born and raised in Philly. Rep Philly all day. And I went into the field of special education because of my younger sibling. I had no desire ever in life, to want to be a teacher of any sort. Um, I wanted to go into medical field. Like that's where I wanted to go. I was very interested in that. Science. I love science. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. And when I went to college, who was it? Biology. I love my biology classes and all that. But when it came to it was chemistry. I was like, oh, chemistry is killing me. I was like, maybe I just need to take it by itself or whatever. But I want to say it was just that's where the I was being pushed and changed in the direction of my major. And I remember my friend we were just going through the catalog book, and I remember we came to education. I was like, I don't want to be no teacher, these bad behind kids. I don't want to do that. And then I saw special education. I immediately thought of my sister because I'm like, well, she has an intellectual disability. And I was like, well, she needs quality teachers of color, etc. But I was like, nobody trying to be no teacher. And I closed the book. And it was just honestly, it was just God just guiding me to that, and when you have a calling on your life, you may not realize it, but you can have a calling on your life to do something and God will make sure you go that direction.
Ooh.
I was fighting it because I did not want to do it. Like even my work study jobs, I was tutoring kids. It was something in a school. I was with a special education classroom. Like I swear, it was just everything just kept pushing me, to that direction. And then I just stopped fighting it and I just leaned into it. I was like, all right, all right, all right, I will do this. And it's been what, 20 years now. But again, it was my sister who kind of, she's the reason why I'm deeply rooted in this work. Why I'm very passionate about it. Really passionate about making sure parents understand their rights, understand what they can do for their child, especially our Black and Brown parents. Especially just making sure that they are equipped with the knowledge, because once you know, you can't unknow it. You know what I mean? And it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with the information. And then teaching Black and Brown children in Philadelphia. I taught in Philadelphia School District. I taught in a suburb outside of Philadelphia as well. I always just wanted both of the experiences of being in an urban district and suburban district. And I also got to see the disparities because I'm just like, dang, Philly is only 40 minutes from this district. Dang, they have this and this. They got all this. And it's like, man, I wish I could take these resources and take it back to my old school with this group of boys that I was working with. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't know you could have counseling in school. That could be part of your IEP. I didn't know you could have group therapy. Oh my God, that's a thing. Like, I didn't know that was, I didn't know, you know, and then honestly, I'll say working in Philadelphia, just being a sped teacher showed me how organized I was. It showed me just skills that I had that I didn't know I had. But they just came out with me being a sped teacher and me working in Philadelphia. I feel like you work in Philadelphia, you teach in Philadelphia, you can teach anywhere. That's how I truly feel. Philadelphia has some phenomenal teachers. But the reason I left was because I'm like, I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to keep doing the same old all the time. I want to grow in this profession. And when you have that SPED certification, you are everything. You are an autistic support teacher, you're a learning support teacher, you're an emotional support teacher, you wear all the hats. Whereas I want to say when I first started my career, if you were a learning support teacher, you're like, oh, I'm a learning support teacher. Somebody could say, well, I'm an autistic support teacher. And it's like, okay, you do autistic support. But now it's like you have SPAD certification. You are all of it. You're all of it. And that's sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow because you're like, I have a specialty. I work with this population, but it is what it is. And so one particular year, I had a group of boys who didn't need to be in an autistic support placement, but they needed like social skills. They needed they needed a group. And I'm like, but I'm not a behavior specialist. I don't know how to do that. And they were just like, you're a SPED teacher. You got to do it. And I'm just like, I was like, okay. I'm just like, I was just so nervous. I'm just, it was just things like that. I'm like, okay, let me get on the internet and figure out how I'm going to do this, and I want to say, I think from my experiences, that's one of the biggest reasons why at the IEP Coach we focus on teacher support, because it's not there. It is not there. And so me, walking in a teacher's shoes already, and not just for a couple years, but for many years, I feel like that helps me to connect with the clients that I have. It helps me to connect with the teachers that we support, because I'm not just talking about this. No, I understand. I've experienced it too. And this is how we can get through this. And you know what? If you are set up for success in the beginning, you'll have a better year. Even though, the work is the work. It's going to always be the work. But if you just have systems in place, if you have some certain infrastructure in place, it does help make your job more manageable. And so just making sure SPED teams are supported in their work is one of the biggest reasons, because I'm just like, where SPED educators rise, that basically came that we basically created a coaching program I didn't have. I wish I had that, you know what I mean? Whereas I can't say my coach was bad. It was just she was stretched out across so many other schools. She couldn't really support me how she needed to. So I learned through trial and error. That's how I learned my role as a SPED teacher. So when it came to my company, the IEP Coach, I was just like, what are all the things I wish I had? What's the support that I, wish I received? And then also just like, they don't do nothing for parents. I've had so many parents ask me a million questions, or thank me during an IEP meeting. Thank you for answering my questions. And I'm just like, nobody's answered your questions. So it was always on my mind, thinking about, how can teachers get supported? How can parents get support? And I want to say also, because I look at myself as a unicorn, because also because I have that personal connection from my sister, I always felt like I kind of had best of both worlds, because I'm not just talking about this. I didn't just go to school for this. I've experienced this through my sister. And that's another aspect that I bring for parents too, is also like, yes, you're going to do for your child who has needs. Do not forget about your other children if you do have other children. And also, you may want to do this because they may feel this way, because you may not be cognizant of it. Because, growing up in the Black community, if you're older, hey, take your sister with you when you go to the store, or go help your sister put her shoes on, help your sister get dressed, especially your parents working. Oh, go fix her a snack real quick, or get this for him, or get them for that. You feel like you're growing up a little faster. And so it's like, dang, I feel like a parent a little bit. And, and I feel like even older siblings can just have that experience, even if it's not, even if they don't have a sibling that has special needs, but you understand that feeling of having to do for your sibling or siblings, because you are the oldest in the house. You may not be the oldest child, but you could be the oldest in the house. And a lot of times that can sometimes create resentment between siblings, because it's like, well, they're always focusing on you. You know what I mean? Even though, yes, you need the attention on you, but it's like, well, you're not focusing on me. And it's like, well, you're assuming because I'm doing all this, I must be okay. And it's like, well, no, I would like for you to spend some time with me, So it's just that sibling aspect too that I, will bring to some parents' attention, because they may not even be cognizant of it. And that also helps me in my work, because it's like, they're like, oh, okay, you're not just the teacher who went to school for whatever. It's like, oh, you get me, you understand. I've had parents, who have broken down at the meeting crying, and I can understand. And it's like having that empathy with them, and I can say, I understand. My mother went through this, and can you imagine? I'm a sibling. I'm 6 years older than my sister. I was extremely overprotective of her. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So it doesn't just affect you, it affects, everybody in the family. So that is kind of how the company got started, how I got into special education, how the company got started, and just yeah, basically where everything started, it was literally just from my experiences with my sister, and then being a special education teacher, being a special education supervisor, just all those different experiences have just kind of guided me to where I am. And um, all of it was either an idea
Mhm.
that I had, and I just, brought it to fruition,
Mhm.
or somebody asked me a question. I'm like, it's a great question. How are we going to answer that? You know what I mean? And then I want to answering the question, and I'm just like, this will be great for teachers, or this will be great for parents. And literally, that's how the company, the IEP Coach, got started. It wasn't, I don't have business people in my family where I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Honestly, no, I didn't know what I was doing was consulting.
Mhm.
I just was like, you're not picking my brain for free. And that's just basically how it started. Honestly, I used to be so scared to go live. Can you believe it? I used to be so
Really?
scared to go live. I only would check my social media like maybe once every 2 weeks, and then I would log out of it. Like literally, I really had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because I was really stepping out of my comfort zone. I never wanted to go live or anything. I know it's hard to believe now, but yeah, it was just, hey, I'm gonna talk about the book because of her. And then it was, hey, I'm gonna start posting all special ed stuff.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's where it grew. And then I was promoting the course, the Master IP course. And that's how I started going live every week, because I was going live every week to talk about it. And then I was like, I might as well just keep doing every Tuesday. And that's just how the coaching corner came, you know what I mean? That's just how it came about.
Mhm.
And that's how, hey, that's how the IEP coach came about. I was on a podcast and someone said, I love that IEP coaching that you do. And I was like, I really love that name. In my head, I was like, oh, I love that name. And I was like, oh, I'm keeping that name. And I was just like, it fit me so well because I enjoy talking about the IEP, you know? So everything just kind of just fell into place.
Mhm. Well, I'm gonna tell you, number one, it's obvious you have the passion, you have the capacity, all of these different things that lined up in terms of where you are today.
Hmm.
I mean, you said a lot, and I had took a few notes. One of the things that I wanted you to talk about, and you pretty much did, but I just wanted you to share maybe just a little bit more
Hmm.
insight into like how you grew up with your sister, how that was.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's very important for those people who have siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and my little sister Aasiyah, we're 6 years apart. So my mom has three daughters. So it's my sister Taliba, myself, and then it's Aasiyah.
Okay.
So growing up with Aasiyah, I remember when she was younger, our mom telling us that, she was going to have limited, and I guess just from going to different doctor's appointments with Aasiyah, that she was going to have, there was going to be some limitations and things.
Okay.
And we were just like, really? We're looking at her like she seemed okay. But this is when, hey, you didn't really, I'm not going to say they weren't present, but you didn't really, children who had disabilities, you saw it. It was, back in the day, it wasn't really too many that
Yep.
you did not, the invisible disabilities. You didn't really see invisible, because we're just like, she looked fine. She looked like any other,
Right.
kid. And so I remember it wasn't until she went to Kencrest, I'll say I can remember, like, oh, okay, Aasiyah goes to a school, a program for children with special needs. That I want to say that's when I really started to notice. So you might as well say I'm about maybe 10 years old now, maybe 9, 10 years old now.
Okay.
And so I remember she did go to Kencrest. I can remember when she was getting evaluated, and they were saying she's going to need a device to communicate. And my mother was just so upset about it. Now, this is like the early 90s. My mother is like upset. Like, what do you mean my child is going to need a communication device and she needs this? No, she knows how to talk and she knows how to do these things. And um, I remember my mom knew my sister would copy everything I did. So she requested another evaluation and she took me with her. And I remember everything the psychologist wanted my sister to do, she told me to do it first because she knew Aasiyah would follow after me. And Aasiyah did. She told them to walk on whatever. So it was kind of like I'm playing with my sister,
Yeah.
but she's being evaluated though at the same time. And so they did have to update their whole report because it's like clear, oh, she can do certain things, she can do this, she can do that. Like there were some things like as far as they wanted her to drink out of a straw. She didn't really drink out of a straw like that. So that was something she had needed some trouble with. But talking, I'm like, this girl don't shut up. Like, what are you talking about? You know? I want to say that was probably the first experience I want to say that I could see where, oh, now when I'm looking back at it, like, oh, you really got to advocate for your child. Because what if my mom didn't say anything? What if she didn't advocate for herself? You know, hey, they would have been saying, oh, probably have an AAC device, you know, devices you have now. They were saying she probably needs something like that. And then I would say it was that experience. And then just realizing that my sister was different,
Okay.
you know, that she couldn't just do things that other children could do. You know what I mean? Like, I knew my sister was in special education classes, you know, I knew that um hey, she's not just going over anybody's house. Like I have to go with her or it has to be us as a family going together. And then I'll say with that, that's where the overprotectiveness came in at, because like if we went out, I could not relax. I could not chill. I could not relax because I'm just worried. Like, I hope nobody's coming over here to bother my sister. That was my biggest thing because there was, you know, a sense of embarrassment. There was some feeling like, oh my God, like, why did this have to happen to my sister? Like, why couldn't she just be a normal, regular child like everybody else? You know, and then it was, yeah, I just didn't trust people. So I'm just like, people came over to us. I'm like, what are you doing over? Like, what do you want? What are you doing over here? Because it's like some people would, you know, just do things because, you know, she don't look like she has a disability. Again, it's, you know, you didn't really, you saw a lot of individuals who had a disability. You saw it. It wasn't a lot of the invisible disabilities, you know? So you know, Aasiyah is very social as well. So it's like you won't know she has a disability until it's something you may have her do, like write her name or tie her shoes or something like that. She struggled with that, you know, and so I was always overprotective. Like I'm sitting close, like I'm ear hustling to see what you asking my sister, what you trying to tell her, or anything like that, because anything that I felt you was trying to do or take advantage of her, like me and my sister, we was just on it and we're ready. We're ready. Like, listen. And she's the youngest too. So
Okay.
we were just ready for whatever. But especially I can just remember being very overwhelmed. And then being very overwhelmed, especially as I got to high school, because like, you know, a lot of times the mom, not saying that dads don't get involved, but a lot of times it's moms who are the ones who are going to the meetings and figuring out all the things. So like sometimes with my dad, it was just like, can you help? Can you get up and help? Like it was one of those things. And it's like, you know, when I look back at it, I'm just like, you know what, maybe he didn't know how. You know what I mean? Especially we have a black mom who takes charge. It's like, okay, I'm gonna follow her, so I'm just gonna, you know, let her do it. But it's like sometimes I'm like, no, you could have helped it, because it's like then you're putting it on me. Like, oh, Jamilah, help your sister with her homework. Oh, Jamilah, help her. And I'm like, I got things to do, you know? So on top of being overwhelmed, it was just very stressful
Ooh.
because it felt like I was growing up a little faster because it felt like I was now responsible in a different capacity for my sister. It felt like I wasn't just, okay, I'm one of her older sisters. It's like, no, you're kind of making me like a surrogate parent now. And that's what it felt like. So that was very stressful for me, and it was very overwhelming for me. So that I'll say that's what it was like growing up,
Okay.
with Aasiyah. Like, yes, we had, fun times, but I'm being honest, I was a stressed out individual. I may not have showed it
Okay.
because one, I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want my mom to be mad at me or parents to be mad at me, but I was stressed. I was very stressed. I was very overwhelmed. Because it felt like I couldn't really focus on things I wanted to do or I needed to do. It was like, oh, Jamilah, you need to do Jamilah, we need you to do this. We need you to do this. Because I was the oldest one in the house at the time.
Mm,
So it was a lot. So like I relate to, and I have a very I'm very sympathetic with with siblings who have siblings with children who have siblings that are special needs. And like I just like I always just hope, like, oh, I hope they're not being, I hope they, like, yes, the lines of siblings are not being crossed
yeah.
where they
Yep.
have to grow up a little faster, because that doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you talked about that, and that's why I was like, I want her to talk about that relationship, that dynamic,
Hmm.
because you said a lot of things that we can relate to in the Black community. Number one, that is beautiful. Of course, again, I'm glad that you're talking about something like this, because these are things that people hopefully will understand. Like when you are raising your children who do have, and then one of your children have a special ability, special needs, make sure that you are not putting a lot of the responsibility on the other siblings, because it can create that
Hmm.
resentment. And so I'm glad you're speaking to that. Also, though, what I thought about is, I don't know if this is something you've done already, started a support group
Hmm.
for those, or is that something that
Um,
in terms of those siblings, who have some sibling with special needs?
I I haven't started a support group because one, just my time
Of
for it.
course.
Because if I ever did anything I do, I want to make sure that I can devote the proper time to it. Because I'm very passionate about the work, and I just don't want to say, oh, I'm doing this group and da 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 da
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it hasn't come up a lot. It's just something that I definitely speak on if I'm ever doing a parent workshop or I'm speaking to parents.
Yeah.
It definitely is something. Anytime I'm vending, it is definitely something that I will speak on, because it's like, or yeah, because a lot of times it's like once I speak on it, like, oh, you know what, you're right. It's like they have a moment to just think about it,
Yeah.
and just. But I haven't really thought about it. Thought about, oh, should I do a group or should I do? Because I'm just like, I'm not. I want to be clear on, okay, like, what's the goal of this group? Like, what do I want us to do, or what do I want it to be like?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I haven't like thought about a support group at all.
And I understand you got a lot on your plate. That was just something, I mean, I thought about that. I was like,
Yeah.
man, I'm like, this is something, I'm quite sure there's a lot of siblings out there who listen. You're like,
There
yeah,
are
that's
a
how
lot.
I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to start a
There
support
there are a lot of siblings out there. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. It's like,
group.
hey, this is just what it is.
Right.
Some they do want to talk about it, and some is just like, well, this is,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just everyone has a different, experience with it. And you don't really know like how they feel about it
Right.
or whatever, unless it's because sometimes some people just is like one on one, they'll talk,
Yeah.
but not in a whole type thing. So, but yeah, I always just bring it up if I'm doing a parent workshop or I'm doing like a vending opportunity for the book.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do that.
Yes, definitely. We're going to get into that book. What I want you to do, though, is this is more education. Specifically, I
Hmm.
want you to tell our audience what autism is, and also just explaining, because I know a lot of people, especially now, and I know you are definitely aware of this, because when I was growing up, never heard the word autism when I was a kid. It was like that was something I can't remember when I started hearing about it, but it definitely wasn't until I, got grown. So if you would just, briefly just let everybody know what autism is, and then also, explaining the spectrum of autism, and then explain to them what an IEP is as well.
Sure, sure, sure. So autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects how children communicate, how they learn and how they interact with the world around them. And the reason it's called autism spectrum disorder is because it is a spectrum. Because, hey, you could be on this end of the spectrum, you could be in the middle, you could be on the high end of the spectrum, and that's just basically what your functioning is like. Because you could have some individuals who are nonverbal, however, that doesn't mean that they don't have the intellectual capacity to do well in school. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't talk. You know what I mean? You can have some who talk, but they need a lot of support in school because they don't have the capacity, they don't have the social skills, they can communicate with you, but they don't have the intellectual capacity to do well academically. You have some in the middle where, hey, um, they may need social skills and they may need some academic support in the school setting. You have some students who thrive in one particular area, they do really well in this area, and in other areas they need a lot of support. So it's a spectrum. Okay. And I do want to say autism is viewed as a little white boy's disability.
Mm.
Anytime anytime I want to say autism is mentioned, you will always see pictures of little white boys or anything like that. And a lot of our Black children are misdiagnosed. They have autism, but is being diagnosed as ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, or is being or they're being what's the other one? It's
ADHD. That's what they try to say
ODD.
about
Yes,
mine.
ADHD. Now you could have ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
but you have autism as well. And I want to say a lot of our Black children are diagnosed with behavior disorders, misdiagnosed with behavior disorders because they're being viewed as misbehaving. They're being viewed as, oh, they have a bad attitude. They're being viewed as, oh, they're being defiant. And it's like, well, what is defiant? Like, what is that? What does
Mm.
that look like? So our children get misdiagnosed a lot.
Can you
Um,
stay there with that just a little bit?
sure.
Because why is that? Because that's something, I mean, and you are in the field, so you know, like hands on, you know what I'm saying, hands on, you've done the research. And these are things that myself and others have seen, and we haven't, you know, it's not like we're well researched in that area. Why is that? Why do they do that?
Okay, so there are disparities. Okay, you do have structural disparities. So it's like you may not have access to professionals in your area who can do the evaluations for you. There is bias, there is racism, you know what I mean? In it. You have subjectiveness, you can have a psychologist who is giving an evaluation for a student. This student, let's say they're asking questions about skiing. This student may have never skied before in their life. They don't know the terms, they don't know what that is, but they could get those questions wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
so their score is low. So it's like, oh, okay, you are showing up as a student who is, you're showing up lower than you would have had they use some other terms that you are familiar with, Again, you have subjectiveness with it as well.
Okay.
Our children, our children are always being viewed, they get adultified, and there's always something to do with behavior all the time. So it's like, well, and then the biggest one is, oh, they're being defiant. And it's like, okay, well, what do you mean they're being defiant? Well, they're not following the rules. Okay, well, what rule aren't they following? Well, they're standing up in the chair. And it's like, are they literally standing up in the chair or are they sitting on their leg? And then it's like, a lot of boys do that. Is he doing, you know what I mean? Have you told him, okay, not 2 feet? Because like for me being a teacher, I always tell my boys, 2 feet, no, not 2 feet. I understand you sit, and I don't know what it was about with boys. They always wanted to sit on their leg or sit on their feet. It was just, I don't know what it was. I used to always tell them not 2 feet in a chair, one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just left it alone. I have some kids who like to move around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those kids who I know who were like that, they always were on the outskirts of the classroom because I knew they needed to get up. So if you got up, you're not blocking no one else from seeing the board or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. But it's like, oh, he can't sit still. And it's like, well, what student can't sit still?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not sitting there with your hands folded, being still, okay, there's something going on. Or how our girls speak. Oh my gosh, she has so much attitude. It's like, well, that's how she talks. It's not really attitude. And
Mm-hmm.
then also some of our kids could be stimming, but you're looking at it as, oh, they're dancing and they're not being still. But they
Mm-hmm.
could be stimming. You know what I mean? So it's so much that goes into that. And so you do have, and then also it could be, again, a provider's bias.
Yeah. Mm,
You
okay.
know, I worked with a psychologist, every single last kid that came, she found something.
Mm,
All of them came out with an exceptionality. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is everybody?
wow.
You know? And so again, you have that. Hey, some parents don't have access to get a second opinion or the money to get a second opinion,
Mm-hmm.
or to get a psychologist that looks like them to evaluate, the student. And this is also why a lot of our students aren't don't get tested for gifted, because you got to teach. I don't know if he can handle that. I'm not sure, but it's like he can do the work. He can do it. She can do it, but you may be like, not really sure if he can handle it or she can handle it. And then you can have teachers be like, okay, you don't think so? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's okay for Matthew and Jonathan and
Right.
Ethan. It's okay for them.
Right.
And then even not even I'll say following the steps in the RTI process or the MTSS process. The end goal is not special education, it's so that you don't need special education. So you
Mm,
could have someone trying to get a tier 2 nomination. It's like, well, listen, they need an IEP because they da 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 da. And it's like, well, where's your data? First of all, have you collected data about the academic concerns that you're seeing or the behavior concerns?
mm,
Hey, it could be a team where, hey, his or her friend is on the team. Like, listen, he needs this. Hey, you could skip a step or two
wow.
and push them along. Okay, we need to do a PTE, a permission to evaluate, and we need to do this, and it's like, if you don't have people on the team who are pushing back to say, listen, we got to make sure we have data to support anything. Where is your data? Where's the data of what you've done in your classroom first? Where is that?
Hmm.
And then you can bring that with a nomination, and as a team we'll decide if we're going to move forward with tier 2 interventions and things like that. So you have some teachers who have they need to change their mindset. Is, oh, this process, oh, this is to get the kid an IEP, when that's not the purpose of RTI and MTSS. It's to intervene so that way the student does not need an IEP.
Hmm.
So there's so many factors that go into that. So it's like, and then also, this is why I also push parents, like, listen, if you feel strongly about getting your child evaluated, do not delay
Yeah.
at all. Do not delay, and please don't be in denial. And I know sometimes that's hard because you may feel like, oh, this white person's trying to label my kid or they're trying to do this, but it's like, if you feel like that, just ask them, where's your data to show that my child is not performing or whatever, because data don't lie.
Right.
The
Right.
data is not going to lie.
Mm,
And then also, you can't be in denial either, because then you are wasting time where you could actually get your child the support that they need.
mm-hmm.
Because in our community, it's like, what happens in this house stays in this house. You don't, and I'm like, but look at all the trauma that has happened off of that.
Yep.
And something was wrong with your child. Everybody knew something was wrong with your child. Not saying it in a bad way, but
Right.
everybody knew, or everybody in the family knew,
Yep.
but you refused to just go get them evaluated because it's like you're worried about what people are going to think. Don't even worry about what people are going to think. Worry about, okay, I know what it is,
Mm,
and now I know what my child needs help with. So this is how I can advocate for my kid.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
Like, yeah.
what you're and the thing is that though we definitely need more people like us, and not just people like us who look like us, sis. Because I'm just as I know you've heard, all our skin folks,
Yes.
skin folks,
Yes, that's true.
people who are invested like yourself, people who
Yeah.
care, people who are showing like, hey, I am doing this research. I have a sibling who has
Mhm.
autism, and I've had to help care for her. And not only that, I love her to life. And I'm,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? And I don't play about mine. And I took this skill, this nurturing, all of that into the field. And we need
Yeah.
more people like you who have that dedication, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because that's the thing. This is real stuff that Black people deal with in terms
Hmm.
of not trusting the medical
Yeah.
folks. Okay.
Yep.
And it's a real trauma, you know what I'm
It
saying?
is. It's
But
it's it's hard because it's
it's
when you
hard.
go back in history, you see why. You
Yes.
see why. And so this
Still
is
have
why also it's just like, okay, having somebody with you,
that.
you know what I mean, for the support,
Right.
whether it's a family member, it could be the teacher, it could be somebody, just having someone go with you so that way they can even ask some questions because you may not even be thinking of certain questions to ask, but
True.
they will. They got questions that they can ask. So it's like, and I can remember even there was a parent transferring his daughter to another school, and I was just like, well, here are some questions you did. I literally wrote it because he was coming to get a copy of her IEP. I literally wrote all the questions on the envelope I gave them. So I said,
Wow.
listen, ask these types of questions. And I said, you can even go see what the environment looks like. So you want to look for, and I wrote it on the envelope. I said,
Mhm.
because you may be going there like, oh, it looks fine, but it's like, it's not real.
Yep. That's good. That is really good. Tell everybody, because I know you said again, you're giving a lot of information, and those who are familiar with special education, a lot of different terms, a lot of you all who are listening, y'all know, but for those who don't know, if you can tell everybody again, IEP,
Oh,
what
IEP, yeah.
that is. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And so students who qualify for special education services,
Hmm.
they get an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. So that plan will list all of the goals that the student needs in order to thrive in their education. It's going to list how they are currently functioning, what their strengths are, what their areas of need are, if they require any related services. So related services are supports that will help them in the areas of need. So you could have a communication need and you may need speech. You may, let's say you having trouble with an executive functioning like writing or something like that. You could have occupational therapy for that. They could help you with writing, or they could be helping you just with focusing in the classroom and things like that. Let's say you have your hearing impaired, you need to see the hearing therapist. So like related service providers are providers who are providing a service for the students. So if you require that, that would be in the IEP as well. Counseling is a related service, so that would be in an IEP as well. And then the IEP will list all of the any accommodations, any modifications that the student requires, um, so that way they can thrive in their education. That is listed in their IEP. If they require an extended school year program, that is listed in the IEP. So everything that that student needs to be successful in their education is documented, should be documented in the IEP. Okay. And so some people are like, why is the IEP so long? If your IEP is not long. Now, if you're just like maybe a speech only student or you just have OT, it may not be long. But if you're not just that, your IEP should be a little lengthy because it goes in detail of everything, and teachers give input, parents give their input, the related service providers give their input and all of that. And so you do want to make sure that the IEP is being followed. You want to make sure that teachers are aware of the accommodations that your child receives, any modifications that they receive. Especially as they get older, when they turn 14, they should start attending their IEP meetings because transition services start. And this is where you're going to start talking about and planning, well, what will they do after high school? Now, if your child has more complex needs, you probably will start thinking about this in middle school.
Yeah.
Um, but for most states, it's the age of 14. And the reason the student comes is because this also helps them with self advocacy so they can start advocating for themselves because, you know, um, they have an idea like things that they like. And so this is the age where I'm like, okay, open your mouth. They may say, hey, this don't even work for me no more. I don't even want to do that anymore. And sometimes that could be a student and a parent kind of battling it out. And they're like, hey, the parent might want them to retake a test. They're like, I'm not going to retake the test. They're being honest. But this is also this time where you are focusing on those skills, those self-advocacy skills, those organizing skills, prioritizing, like, so that way, because after they graduate, all those skills are going to help them with a job. It's going to help them if they're living in assisted living. It's going to help them in higher ed. I'm the what's the role? Academic accessibility specialist at a university here in Philly. So it's like I'm the go-to person for accommodations. And it's like I tell parents all the time, I'm like, listen, you need to start doing this. You need to really make sure that school is on top of that transition plan. Because if they are college bound, hey, you want that reevaluation report to be within 3 years, that it lists the disability and how it impacts the student, because that's going to be your documentation to send to a college to acquire accommodations for your student.
Okay.
But also what I tell parents is they're not going to talk to you. They're going to talk to the student. So this is why it's very important that you work on self-advocacy skills during that transition time, even prior to that. Always push for your child to advocate for themselves, because they're going to have to do it when they go to college. They have to inquire about accommodations. And then when they get it, we're going to communicate with them. We're not going to say, oh, mom, no, we're not going to communicate with you at all. So sometimes that's a big transition for some parents. They're like, oh,
I'm thinking about myself.
Or they're like, wait, can I sign that FERPA waiver? And it's like, well, your child has to initiate that. We don't initiate that. They have to initiate it. And it's like, you'll be aware of some things, but I'm still going to communicate with your child. So it's like, you can even hey, let's say you want to go to the meeting with the child to that department. They're not going to talk to you. You can be there. Not going to talk to you though. They're going to talk to your student. So it's like, again, just making sure, you stay on top of things, you hold schools accountable. We had one parent we were just supporting, and we said, do you want us to look at the IEP real quick for you? She's like, oh, sure. Come to find out, it was sections of the IEP missing. And I was just like, just so you're aware, I just want you to know this section, this section, this section. And I named them for her and numbered them like, oh, these are missing from that document you sent me. She had no idea. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just things and this is why I'm like, parents, please learn about the IEP. Please read your procedural safeguards, because that's for you. That's listing your rights as a parent and what you can do. Please read it. If you got questions about an IEP, please ask. Please pause the meeting if you don't understand something. It is okay. Don't let them rush you. And then on the other side of that, it's like, administrators, please give teachers sufficient time to have IEP meetings. 30 minutes, 45. No, that's not going to cut it. You at least need an hour.
Okay.
Because a lot of times it's like, oh, get it done in your prep. You're like, my prep is 45 minutes. And then it's like, well, you still got class to do. So it's like, hey, you're in an IEP meeting. You can have kids going to your room for class, but you don't got no cover. So it's like, there's so much going on. So sometimes parents might think teachers are rushing it. And it's like, not that I'm rushing it. I don't got no coverage. And I only got this much time. They only gave me this much time to do the meeting. So it's like, it's so much that goes on. So this is why, like, I always gave myself an hour for a meeting. So that way, okay, and I'll always send the draft earlier, just so parents can like look it over, so you can come in with your questions ahead of time. You get to look at it, or, so that way we can maximize time as much as possible, because I only would get coverage if, let's say, it was litigation and the lawyer needed to talk to us for a while. We got a sub to cover. Now, this was in the suburbs. We got a sub to cover, but I'm like, in the city?
And that's what you had me thinking the whole time, because of course, just like you said, in Philly, and I mean, that's across the nation, right? In all these, inner cities where they are lacking, the sufficient help that they, especially when it comes to special education department. And I noticed there are a lot of, because I'm a sub too, okay? And I see a lot of sub positions for intervention specialists.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about a
It's a
lot. It'd
lot.
be like,
It's a lot. And then even in the suburbs, like some subs wouldn't take the job because um we were middle school. So like because I did seventh grade English, I was an emotional support teacher. And so if I got a sub and I had an instructional assistant, so if I had a sub, I'm always leaving detailed instructions because I need you to know these kids, these, I need you to just know about kids who are coming, who you're going to have kids who are going to come to you. So I used to always say, or I'm just going to call my instructional assistant, I'm going to call her Mary. Let Mary run check-in. She knows exactly what to do, all that. And then I would say, okay, you will be co-teaching this class, this period, this period, this period, these periods, you will have class. I always made sure I had them doing a journal, something that the teacher really did not have to assist them with or
okay.
did not have to really do any instruction. And then I would tell them about the end of the day. Look to your right. I said it is a list of students. You know who is going to go on the bus first and who's going to go on their school buses second. Like that's just everything was there, and I had everything on my desk for them. So subs who let's say they took out, let's say they was coming to middle school to do a sub position,
Mm-hmm.
their day was much easier because it's like the students kind of already know the drill and everything
Yeah.
and can do things. So a teacher could, let's say they're working, they could work on something while the students are working on something.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times subs don't want to take elementary because you're with the kids all day.
Mm-hmm.
So they would take the my sub and be like, "Oh, we're gonna put you over there," and I'm just like, they was like, Miss Bashir, they're trying to pull me and put me over there. I was like, why? They was like, because there's no sub
Yeah.
over there, and
Good for
then
that.
they would say,
Thank
and
you.
then it and then they would say, well, Miss Bashir,
Mm-hmm.
we got a sub for Wendy. I'm like, well, actually, I do need the sub because da 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 da.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's how I found out some subs, and then some subs stopped taking the middle school positions because they knew they would pull them and send them to the
Mm-hmm.
elementary side.
Wow. And
And
that
they
just goes
didn't
just
and
the
they didn't want to do the elementary side because you're with the kids
all day.
all day.
And if that's not your, if that's not
Hey, that's not what you're thinking. I get it. You because
yeah,
hey, if you're middle school, you're gonna get different kids throughout the day. You're not gonna be with the same kids all day.
yeah. And that just goes to show you, though, again, it's a system issue because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you may have a principal try to get upset with the sub. Well, why can't you be flexible? And it's like, well, no, if somebody decides they want to choose a particular position, that's their
Mm-hmm.
right. You can't
Yeah.
try to
Right.
you know what I'm saying, make them maybe feel guilty or
Right.
whatever the case may be. It's like, no, it's a systemic issue.
Yeah. And then also the number of sped teachers, like back in the when I first started my career,
Mm-hmm.
you I was blessed to work with some OG sped teachers. Like they
Mm-hmm.
taught me how things were. We were able to connect and I could show them some new things. So it's like, hey, when they came teachers, you was writing IEPs. They
Right.
weren't computerized, you know. But like now they are retired or heading on retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So you have so many new sped teachers coming in. There's nobody taking you under their wing like they used to,
Ooh.
or there's no one willing to take you under their wing because one, they tired and burnt out themselves. And so you come in, and I tell people this all the time. When you get a sped teacher, is literally, I swear, it's like an administrator is like, oh, great, here's your caseload. And it's like, do you even know they know how to write an IEP? Because you don't learn all that. You don't learn that in school. You learn that on the job. You don't learn it. Like you learn about, oh, how to educate students with IEPs and things like that. You do your student teaching, you do all that, but you don't learn how to write an IEP.
I would think that would be a class
I
by
would think so too.
okay. All right.
I would think so too. But you don't learn how to do all that. You don't learn how to progress monitor. You don't learn how to do all that. You learn it on the job. You learn it on the job. So, like writing an IEP, participating in an IEP meeting, you learn all that on the job.
On the job. OJT. On the job.
And that's how So that's for me, that's where all the trial and error came in at. And so like
Release.
if I ever was in contact with a new teacher,
Mm-hmm.
of course I always let them vent because you need to cry sometimes. You gotta let it out
Right,
sometimes.
right,
But
right.
then I would say, here, let me show you how to do this if they want help.
Mm-hmm.
If they want help. But I want to say that's where I also realized, oh, I got really good with progress monitoring, especially behavior, because I was an emotion support teacher. All of my students had behavior plans. They had FBAs, they had positive behavior support plans. They had group therapy or group therapy and individual counseling. And so I had to track behavior all the time. And that's where colleagues would start to come to me and say, well, how can I word this? Because I have a kid with these behaviors
Okay.
or I have whatever. And so I was very particular and very like strict with what we had to do with our students because one, we were dealing with behavior. So we had to be very consistent. I had to mean what I say and say what I mean because of the population that I was working with. And a lot of it was they needed to just be held accountable for things, you know. And there was a lot of just completing work and and some of it I looked at it as though you need discipline at home. Now, some people might look at that as like, oh, you speaking just like how people are with some students, it is a lack of discipline that has developed into a bigger issue. So now
Come on,
you have this diagnosis,
come on.
but it's because of a lack of consistency in other areas in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had students like that. And yes, I have students that have severe
Of course.
ADHD.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
had students who have autism. I have students who were bipolar. I had that as well. But
Mhm.
then I did have those. It was just like,
Yeah. Well,
I
yes,
had those, there were
yes.
those I had to say, your lack of not doing your work is not a
Hmm.
crisis for me.
No accountability. No
Oh,
accountability.
it's just you haven't been held accountable.
Yep.
Whereas as other students, where it's like, okay, my student who was autistic, I had a couple students who were autistic. So
Hmm.
like I'm talking with parent, I'm talking with the therapist outside of school, I'm talking with their one-to-one. Like he was getting an award. And I knew I couldn't throw that on him. I had to, we all were, it was a village where we literally was practicing how he would come up to get his award and then go sit back down. I had to explain the whole process to him. His therapist was explaining it to him.
Yeah.
And then the day of, the principal decided to do something different. And he looked at her. He wanted to shake his hand too. I didn't tell him he was going to have to shake his hand. So when the principal put his hand out, he's looking at him like, "What do you want me to do?" And I was like, "It's okay to shake his hand." And he's like, "But that's not." His face was like, "That's not what we practice." And I was like,
Yes.
"You don't have to if you don't want to." You know what I mean? It
Yes.
was that, but we literally had to talk him up to do it.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know what I mean? It's things like that. Or, you know, you only have 3 times to ask me questions about a fire drill. It's things like that.
Yeah.
I color coded everything, not just for my student who was autistic, because I knew it would help everybody in the classroom.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's things like that. And my kid who has severe ADHD, every day I had to sit him near the trash can, near the sharpener, near everything, because he would try to get up for you know what I mean? It's things like that. So it really depends on the kid. You know what I mean? And it's
Tell
so
me.
much that you have to do. And if you're a new teacher and there's no one there to guide you, I can imagine how overwhelming that is. And you may not last long.
Mm. Wow.
You may not last long. This is why there's such a huge need for SPED teachers. There's a huge need for SPED supervisors and things like that. And some people get pushed into those roles. They don't want to do them at all, especially in charter schools.
Mm.
They get pushed into those roles. They don't have a background in special education at all. And I'm just like, oh, okay, okay. And then when I decided to leave, I was just like, yeah, when I see coming down the pipe, I was like, absolutely not.
Right.
I work with a high level of integrity. I will not be lying to these parents at
Mm.
all because that's what it felt. Even though you're not telling me to come out and lie to these parents, how
Right.
you are moving, I don't know how you're going to do that without parental consent. So you're going to be lying to these parents.
Got you. Mm.
Because even for you to say, oh, we just go ahead and change the IEP, I said, how are you going to go and change an IEP without a parent consent? Or I'm being told, oh, you can't give this kid accommodations because they're from out of state and the IEP is outdated. I said the IEP is a year old, yes. I contacted the previous school. We are aware of why it was outdated because they were moving when the IEP was done, and the district office is aware that this student has an out-of-state IEP, and we're working on getting an in-state one. And I said, from my experience, you follow whatever is in that IEP until you get the updated IEP.
Mm.
Well, here, and they were trying to explain to me, well, in this state, we did it. I said, well, the law is, and I explained what the law was. Because one, I'm not new to this, and I'm not a new SPED teacher. First of all, I'm not a teacher, I'm a supervisor. I'm not new to any of this.
Mm.
And what you're not going to do is tell me that I'm not supposed to give this student his testing accommodations, which are in his IEP,
Mm.
because his IEP is from another state.
Wow.
And she said, well, we're going to get back. I was like, you do that.
Mm.
Ask me, did she ever get back to me? No, she did not. Because one thing, I'm like, again, I'm not new to this.
Mm.
And is no way is. And then the thing is, I'm using my common sense. There's no way that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking. I'm sitting up here like, okay, what about when the common sense part comes into play? Like,
And can you imagine if I was new? I might think they're telling me the truth. Like, or maybe that is the law. Maybe what you just told me is the law. No, it's not. But if I was new, I would think that is. And I would do what you're telling me to do.
and see what you're doing, and this is leading me to you explaining to everybody in terms of you being an IEP coach, because this is
Sure.
empowering right here. I'm like, I'm just, I'm definitely, I'm taking notes for my own self on a personal level for my son. And I'm like, and I know there are a lot of parents out there who are like, they listen like, dang,
Right.
that wasn't told me. I ain't know that. Are you serious?
Right. So when it came to, again, when I was again, when people were just, when I published Because of Her, I
Mm-hmm.
published that book because I was at a writing workshop and somebody was, and the person was just like, oh, what would you write about? And I just kept thinking about my sister, and I was like, I should write about what it was like growing up with Aasiyah.
Mm.
That's how Because of Her came about.
Okay.
In that story, I talk about what it was like growing up, and I talk about just the impact she's had on my life. So
Yeah.
literally, it's like a before her, and there's like a after her.
Okay.
So then from that book, people just started, asking me questions, and I was like, I wonder, and this is when I was like, oh, what am I going to call myself? I didn't know it was consulting. I didn't know what it was. I knew that I enjoyed talking about the IEP. I knew I enjoyed answering people's questions and really helping them understand the process, understand the SPED part. I could talk about it all day.
Yeah.
And so I was just like posting SPED stuff online, and I got asked to be on a podcast. And when the woman said, I love that IEP coaching at you, I was like, oh, that's what it is. Oh, okay, I'm gonna call myself that.
Mm.
So, and it's so fitting for me because I enjoy coaching. I enjoy coaching teachers. I enjoy coaching parents because I'm getting you from point A to point B,
Come
and I'm
on.
just helping you to just be more, helping you to be empowered and confidently advocate for your student, for yourself, and just so you're overall, you can be swayed in a meeting. You know
Mm.
how to speak up for yourself in the meeting. As a teacher, you know how to contribute to this meeting. You know how to follow this kid's IEP. As a parent, you know what the process is like because knowledge is power. So when you know this information, no one can tell you otherwise because you know the information. So when it comes to IEP coaching, we really make sure you understand the special education process. So the timeline, if you send a request in, the timeline that schools have to respond to you, the timeline it takes to getting that evaluation completed. What does it mean in the beginning with the initial IEP? Because it's different than an annual IEP. Because what I explain to parents is with an initial IEP, that's the very first IEP, nothing will get done until you sign it.
Mm.
Nothing will get started until you sign it. Whereas with an annual, if you don't sign it, but you got to read the fine print within like 10 days, they have the school can implement that IEP, because if you don't say, oh, I want to do due process or I want to do mediation or something, they can move forward with that IEP.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why I always tell parents, if don't just say, oh, I disagree, say you disagree and read that fine print so you know what are the next steps, and use your procedural safeguards to help you figure out, well, what is your next move going to be if you need to seek legal action or something like that. um we when also with IEP coaching, we do parent workshops, so we explain the difference between an IEP with a 504. We do that, but all of it is literally to make sure you understand the ins and outs of an IEP. That I always tell parents, keep your child's needs at the forefront all the time, because sometimes you may get into, well, I want my child to have this and this, and it's like, what do they need that for? What do they need it for? How is it going to help them with their needs? Well, I think it'd just be great, but I'm like, the data don't show that they need that, because we're not trying to enable kids.
Right.
At the same time, we're trying to make sure we support them, and then also helping parents to understand, as this IEP, when it's implemented well and things are working, the goal is, okay, now let's start to pull some of it away to see how the student is doing, because it's the IEP is not meant for the rest of their life. That's just like if you're sick and you're taking medicine. Okay, you're going to start feeling better, and then sometimes your doctor may say, okay, you don't need to take as much medicine anymore. Okay, let's see how you're doing. It's the same thing. And sometimes that is very uncomfortable for parents, because they're like, you're taking it away. It's like, no, let's data. Look, I don't need to track homework completion no more, because you want to know why? They do all their homework now, and they've been doing it 80% of the day, doing it consistently. How you see how many weeks this was? We don't need to track this no more. You know what needs to be tracked? Their advocacy needs to be tracked. How they interact with their peers, that continues to need to be tracked. Because let's look at those numbers. You see how they're not as high as this area. So this is why I always say, you need your data. You need to analyze your data. You need to collect your data consistently and analyze it, because that's how you're going to make your data-driven decisions on what goals the kid need, what supports the kids need, and you use that to help parents understand that.
That's power.
So yes, you always need, and this is something we explain to parents too. Please, and that's what I always tell parents. If someone tells you your child is doing good or if they're doing bad, can you show me the data for that, please?
Okay. I love it.
Always. Oh, they're really doing good. Can you show me that test, please?
Wow.
And if the teacher said, well, you know what, is it all right we schedule a meeting? We can do it on Zoom or in person, so that way they can share the data with you. Because you don't want to just always take a hearsay, she say, he say. It's like, well, let me see.
Right. And you're teaching parents to take that deep dive, not just the surface.
Right.
Oh, everything is cool. Okay, so what does
well,
that
show me those cool grades. Show me the cool grades. Show me the cool grades. And it's not even from a place of I don't trust you. It's just show me those cool grades, so that way I can see, like, oh, you okay? If it's cool enough for me.
Yes.
If it's cool enough for me, because sometimes my kid may not be doing as cool as I want them to.
Right.
So are they cool enough for me? So always, I tell parents that all the time, just ask for it.
Yeah.
And like, that's something, as a teacher, I always kept my students test. I would give back homework, classwork, but I always kept their tests. So that way I could show parents, like, let me show you how they've improved on quizzes and tests and all that. Because data don't lie.
Yeah.
It doesn't lie. So, and this is how you're supposed to decide, like, how you're going to do goals and what goals do they need. And also, hey, can we pull back any services? This is why sometimes speech may say, hey, we don't need speech twice a week anymore. We may need it once a week. because they are doing so well.
Mm.
And that's the goal.
Or it may be a situation where they may have to,
May need more, right? Or it could be a situation like, you know what? We want to increase
right,
this because they made some improvement, not as much as we thought. We want to increase it. We
right.
want to increase this service. And sometimes that's hard for parents to swallow too. So this is why the IEP coach, we are very big on, like, teachers are always our focus, but also for parents to understand their role in it, like always speaking on behalf of your child. And it's great when you guys can really work as a team, as a village, the teacher, the related service providers. Hey, I remember at the beginning of the year on my caseload, I used to email parents,
Mhm.
if you have a question about a subject, please email that subject teacher. Do not email me. I don't teach that subject.
Right,
So do that. You know what I mean? That way, hey, you got a speech question. Email the speech pathologist.
right.
Ask the question. It is okay to ask them questions. We're
Mm.
all in this together. And I know sometimes it's a trust thing. And as teachers on the educator side, you gotta build that rapport and
Mhm.
that trust with some parents, because some parents they've been through so much getting support for their child,
Yeah.
finding someone that really cares. And so they may come with on the defense. And it took me a while to learn that. When I used to take it so personal. I used to get so mad. I used to be like, I'm with this kid every day, and I'm the one that, but it's like, okay, I understand why this mom is on the defense, and it takes them a while to be like, okay, Miss Bashir has been consistent. Miss Bashir does answer my questions. She
Yeah.
will take my phone. And I used to tell parents, don't call me. Please send me an email. I may be able to do 10 minutes, but
Mhm.
some of you are long-winded, and I can't be on the phone that long. But I can email you. Just email me. I can email you back. Or if it's after school, you picking your kid up, sure, I can talk to you. You
Right.
know, it's just it's all of that. So it's like there's so much, but it's like when you have someone like an IEP coach like me to
Mhm.
just go through it with you to make sure you understand, it's more manageable. This is why we do our workshops are free. This is why, like, our IEP in a nutshell, that is on demand. Now, that was our most popular workshop. It's literally on demand. You click the link in our bio, register, you can take it, you can view it right away.
Mm.
That was our most popular one. Um, we're doing one on April the 29th called From Request to Results. And this is focusing on, how do I go about requesting an evaluation for my kid? How do I do that? We
Mm.
go through the whole process, and we also have a toolkit for you. The toolkit that you can buy. We literally have given you templates that you can use. You just put in your kid's name and their ID. We have the letter typed out for you. We have different forms typed out for you.
Mm.
So you don't got to think about it. And we got videos in it. We got like 3 videos showing you how to do it. So this is what you're going to do on this part. Copy this, put it in an email. We literally go step by step because we know some people need step by step. And all of it is in the toolkit. Yeah, if you want the toolkit, you can buy. If you don't want it, you don't have to. You can come to the workshop. It's free.
Mhm.
Come to the workshop. We've done a workshop on case management. It's free. This is what you do not do in case management, and this is what you need to do in case management. And then we do them free because we want you guys to have the information. Now, if you want even more support on the how, sure, you can invest in our services. This is why we have Speducators Rise. It's specifically for SPED teachers because there's nothing really out there for SPED teachers. This is why we made the Master IEP course. It just focuses on the IEP. And how we did it is we go according to the sections of the IEP. So each section of the IEP is its own module, it's its own video.
Mm.
So you don't got to sit through a whole hour and a half and fast forward. No, each section of the IEP, we talk about what happens before the IEP. That
Mm.
whole initial process, like, listen, they're going to ask you these questions. They're going to do that. Don't take it personal. We go through everything. We give you copies of our ebook in the Master IEP course. You do Special Educators Rise, you get access to our course and you get access to the ebooks. Like, we make everything accessible for everybody. It's a reason, like, these are our babies. I've been a SPED teacher. That is everything I wish I had. And then our course, this is everything. If you're a parent, you want to know, you're a new teacher, you want to know, you're an admin, you want to know, you
Mm.
can take the course. You can book a call with us. Hey, you wanted to do a parent workshop at your school and you're on a parent teacher uh committee,
Yeah.
you can reach out to us. We can do a parent workshop at your school. What's
Mm.
your budget? You want us to do PD at your school? Book a call with us. What's your budget? I know schools are getting ready for next year. You need us to do a PD? You need us to do some coaching? Hey, book a call with us.
I know that's right.
I had some people DM us or tag us in something. I'm just like, sure, we can, let's talk the numbers because we don't work for free.
Exactly. And just like what you said, and this right here, first of all, you over delivered. Okay. Just so you know, you empowered the people here. If folks walk away from listening to this podcast or watching and they like, I don't, that means you were not paying attention. You literally dropped all types of nuggets and
Mm-hmm.
jewels. And I like how you said investment, because that's what I was going to say. That's the thing that our people have to start using more of, that language. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about, oh my God, what is it going to cost to spend? Of course, yeah, you look at budgets and your what you
Yeah.
afford, of
But
course. But
what is
I'm
the
saying
impact?
you have to
What is
say,
the impact and how much is it going to cost you if you don't do it?
thank you. That's
Excuse me, you already putting band-aids on stuff and sorry, you know what? If you was more proactive, you wouldn't be paying millions out in these lawsuits because your teachers don't know how to write IEPs. You're paying so much out in lawsuits now.
yeah, yeah,
What if you just actually invested in teaching them how
yes,
to learn the nuances of their role, how
yep,
to progress monitor, how to do these things? And
yep.
this is why I always say, like, I used to take a person, but you'll be back. You'll be back and you may have to pay more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Well,
it's like really invest in what your teachers need. And
mm,
then also with these budgets, like with the money you have, you can be doing parent workshops. There's money there for parent workshops. Now with the way things are going, I don't know if the money's still there, but I'm like, with Title II money, like you use that for teachers PD and parent workshops
see,
and parent workshops. And
here,
you have some admin, they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what she's gonna say to the parent. And I never forget, I told it was one commit parent teacher, parent committee. I was just like, I'm about the team. I'm about team kid. I worked for that district. I was like, oh, who's your school? I said, oh, the principal is this person. I said, oh, tell them to talk to Miss So and so or Mr. So, because these were all principals that I worked with. I was like, I don't mind doing a meeting with your with your parents.
yeah,
But then it was like, I don't know what she's gonna say to the parents. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to the parents, but I'm all about the kid.
yeah,
And the parents were very excited, especially because they knew I worked for that district.
right.
But it didn't go through, and I was just like, it's okay. Maybe next year.
Wow. Well, look, what you're doing is absolutely necessary. It's phenomenal. You are the sister for this job, okay? You are
Mhm.
the one, you are the coach, because the way how thoroughly and how excited and just passion, I mean, all of these things, and your knowledge, your expertise is just off the chain. So I appreciate you
Thank you.
tremendously for coming on and sharing your information. What I would love for you to do, two things. Number one, please tell everybody where they can get a copy of your book.
Sure.
Because yes, because that's what they need. They need your book. Actually, just letting everybody know we bought copies. Our organization ABC Read, and we're going to buy some more to give to the community. And then also let everybody know about how if they need the IEP coach in their life,
Sure.
how they can
Sure.
connect.
So first off, you can follow us on all social media at the IEP Coach LLC. You ever got questions? We're very responsive. We go live every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about all things special education. So even if you have a topic you want us to talk about, you can send us a DM. We'll add that to we'll add it to one of our lives, okay? If interested in purchasing the book Because of Her, you can go right to our website, www IEPCoachLLC.com, and you can just click at the top. It's the Because of Her book. Just click on the link, and it'll take you right to the page, so that way you can purchase the book. And if you would like to book a call with us, you can go straight to our website. You can do it from our social media. You can just click the link in our bio and book a call. Email us. It connects you to everything. Our links connect you to everything, so you can book a call right through our website. Or if you're on our social media, you can click the link that's in our bio, and you can book a call as well. So if you're interested in PD for your school, coaching for your school, a parent workshop, we are there as well. If you need support for your SPED leader, we do that as well.
You are like a one-stop shop for the special
That's the
education
goal. That's the
community.
goal.
I'm like,
SPED is
good
our
Lord.
thing.
I'm like, she like parents, teachers,
Special
admin.
education is
I'm
our
like,
thing. Special
hey,
education is that's what we
come
do.
on.
That's what we do.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what entrepreneurship looks like. And I love it. I appreciate you. I said last two questions, but I do have one more. What book
Sure.
are you currently reading?
A book that I'm currently, actually, is right here.
Oh,
This is my cousin's book, actually.
okay.
It's called More Than What I've Been Through. This
Oh,
is currently what I am reading. And it
okay.
is like a life book, like just guiding you through life. She has like assignments in here for you to do, and I'm
Oh, it's
really
like a
loving it.
self-help. It's like kind of like a self-help.
Yeah, kind of like that. Kind of like that. But it's this is currently what I am reading.
Did you say that was your cousin's book?
Yes.
Really? Hold that
Yeah.
up again.
More Than What I've Been
And
Through.
what's your cousin's name? What's the author?
Her name is Clara Monique. Hold on, you can't see it from the,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
the twin.
Clara Monique.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Clara Monique.
so
Let me
yeah, we're gonna
see.
have to purchase copies of those books.
Yeah,
Okay.
Clara Monique. Yep. So
Ooh.
that's that. I'm getting back into reading for pleasure.
Oh yeah, because I was just listening. I'm just like, oh my God, the research and the studying that she has to do, especially for this,
Right. And then I also subscribe to different websites. So like, of course, you can always look at your Department of Education to see like, or your state to see like what are the SPED laws and things like
yes.
that. But
Mhm.
hey, I go on understood.org. I go to different conferences and things like that. So it's like it's you can never know all the things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes I just look up like, is this law still what it is? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's just it's always something to learn. So yeah.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you again. I thank you so much, Jamilah Bashir, the IEP coach. And this has been another episode of Real Reading Talk. Again, I am your most gracious host, Ms. Sasha. With Real Reading Talk, we discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, very foundation as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. And I thank you all again for listening. Again, I thank my guest, Miss Jamilah Bashir. And you all remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace. All right, y'all. She dropped the mic. Of course, Jamilah Bashir, once again, the IEP coach. She did a phenomenal job, fantastic job breaking down the things all the things that we need to know. And there's plenty more out there, information. That's why you need to go follow her as it pertains to the special education department, special education community. So I hope that you all gained a lot of insight because she was dropping mad jewels, all right? And again, for housekeeping purposes, I want you all to remember that if you are looking for that reading tutor for your pre-K through fourth grade baby, please make sure that you go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. Click on the free reading assessment today. And also, I am the founder and executive director of ABC Read. And our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. We've been doing this over 10 years and counting. We are preparing for our very first fundraising gala, y'all. We are super excited. Inshallah, God willing, it is going to be Saturday, May 3rd. So if you are in the city of Cleveland, or if you just want to make a trip to Cleveland to come and show us some support, we have some tickets available. It is going to be fantastic. Okay, God willing. All right. So please make sure you go to abcread.org, and you can go on the site and you can click the donate button, and you can make your purchase of the ticket right there, or the flyer that we've been having circulating on social media. You guys can scan the QR code to purchase your ticket that way as well. And then also make sure that you all subscribe. Make sure that you all share my YouTube channel, which, by the way, the podcast will be uploaded to there. Reading is Freedom. So make sure that you do that. And you all see the merch. Reading is Freedom. We got the mug. Of course, I got the shirt. You know, I'll be rocking it. I don't be playing when it comes to promoting that literacy. We need to make sure that this is a priority in our communities. All right. And I'm going to end with the book that I've been reading. It is called Self-Taught. I forget the rest of the title, but it's talking about the history of how our enslaved ancestors did everything that they could to still learn how to read and write under a system of tyranny and just horrific conditions that we call slavery. Okay, they did everything that they could. So you guys, I highly implore you to grab that book. All right, and I'm just going to end with my quote, which is, reading is freedom, because it truly is. All right. So thank you all again for listening. Again, my name is Miss Aasiyah, and make sure that you all continue to read for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, again, reading is freedom. Peace.